and welcome everyone. I have my handy helper passing out a piece of paper and a Sharpie. We have an activity that you will be encouraged to partake. There's also a QR code with some interesting tidbits that you can scan after. I'll show the QR code digitally as well if you are opposed to paper. We are right on time. I have a 6-year-old at home who is 16-hour flight away from me. So I'm going to send him a little photo afterwards. Everybody say, hi. You guys look great. You look so good. Very clear. All right. He honestly doesn't mind when I go on trips, though, because I always bring him back like a toy or something. He always goes, yes, it's time for toys. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited that you chose to spend this time with me. My name is Alyssa Nicoll. I'm a developer advocate at Progress, where we make cool dev tools like Kendo UI components. We're also known by Decluttering. Maybe you've heard of us. Very excited to spend some time with you this afternoon talking about something that I'm very passionate about. So I have spent the last 30 plus years of my life, I don't really count 1 through 6, so we're going to say 30, fighting to pay attention. Yes. We're out of papers. You can have a free Sharpie. Thank you for coming. There's a digital version. Yes, we'll put, you have, can we please put it together? Thank you so much for this gentleman. Look at him. He's like thinking on the fly, coming up with papers. So you're going to have to use your imagination if you get one of those, right? Pretend like you have the rest of it, but I will clue you in as to said activity. Welcome. Join us. Oh, so happy to have you. Thank you so much. So, I spent a long time fighting to pay attention. I have ADHD, and luckily for me, it's more of the extreme version of attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder. But even if you don't have a formally diagnosed neurodivergence, I've seen my coworkers and my friends throughout the years bogged down with the same issues that I've trudged through, if not at such an extreme scale. A book that I love, and highly recommend is called Deliver from Distractions by Hollowell and Ratty, and it explains ADD or ADHD like this. Time is the thing that keeps everything from happening all at once. Time parcels out moments into separate bits, so we can do one thing at a time. In ADD, time collapses, making life feel as if everything is happening at once. It's now or never, and it creates a panic. One loses perspective and the ability to select what needs to be done first, what can be done second, and what can wait until another day. Instead, you're always on the go, leaping before you look, always trying to keep the world from caving in on top of you. Love that book, absolutely beautiful description, but it's also kind of sad. I believe because I was given such an acute version of the struggle that we all go through, I was able to hone these skills and develop these strategies quicker than those around me, literally just for survival, right? To stay above water. When people think of ADHD, they think of fidgeting or forgetfulness, losing your keys. But for me, the scariest symptom wasn't disorganization, it was numbness, like literal physical numbness. I disassociated so hard at one point from overwhelm that I lost feeling in my face. I remember standing in my closet thinking, this can't just be from stress, can it? And spoiler, it totally can. I know I'm not the only one. People with ADHD are 3 times more likely to experience depression. When your brain is always firing, eventually your body will stop ringing the alarms. So that's why I'm here. Not to give you productivity hacks, I'm here to talk to you about survival and the tools that I built not to thrive at first, but just to stay above water. The beautiful thing, though, is the same tools that ended up saving more than just my workday, they gave me my brain back. And I'm going to be honest with you. The things I'm about to share will feel trivial. compared to the weight of what you're carrying. But when I'm desperate enough, when I was going through just enough of a mountain, I reached for the trivial. And surprisingly, it helped. Sometimes the right tool isn't just dramatic. It's a small, something timely, something that keeps you from disappearing. All right. So, I have lived with a medically diagnosed brain that makes focus not just hard, but sometimes impossible. The other day, I asked my friend, hang on, you're telling me that if someone's talking and they're boring and it's long, but there's important information coming, you're telling me that you can just make yourself pay attention? And she blinked at me and was like, yeah, that's how my brain works. And I was honestly stunned because it's never been an option for me. And yet, even without a brain that won't follow the usual rules, I earned 2 degrees, one in psychology and one in web development and design. I landed my first job before I graduated with no formal interview. And I've now spent over a decade in tech, becoming a senior early and building a career that I genuinely love, not just as a developer, but as an advocate. I've spoken around the world, mentored new voices, spent 10 years growing the Angular community. I'm a wife, a mom, a friend, a person of faith. My life is full. But I still wrestle with focus every single day. So today I want to share what's actually helped, what's worked for me, and some things that haven't. We're all different. So, I'm at the very end going to also pitch some psychology that changed the game for me. But let's be honest, focus isn't just about getting things done. It's about being able to show up consistently and communicating well, to prioritize, to meet goals. For the sake of the time that we have today, I've tried to separate our talk into 2 parts. First, we're going to walk through some of the tools and tactics that helped me manage the chaos. And then at the end of the talk, we're going to go into the deeper psychology behind why focus is so hard. So, first step is tracking, right? You can't conquer the unknown. My husband and I are in the same industry. We worked together from home before it was cool in the pandemic. And I can't tell you the number of times we both ended our workday and we looked up in surprise that it was after 5 o'clock. We had to rush to aftercare to pick up our 6-year-old. We'll both lament, if only there were more hours to this day. The to-do list is often daunting, but we both attempt to conquer it by putting our heads down and working hard. But there are a lot of lists, if we're honest, that hard work won't cut. And there are, to my great dismay, so many productive hours where brain functions enough to get things done. So when you start to feel overwhelmed and perhaps to the point of immobility by the sheer height of to-do mountain, take a deep breath and grab a pen or a Sharpie. For me, that moment of writing is often the moment of clarity. I call it Mount to Do, where everything I haven't done, haven't said, haven't started, haven't finished, it just piles up in my head. And sometimes it's so overwhelming, I don't want to write it down. I don't want to look at it. But if we're being honest, it's still there, even if it's not on paper, right? I'm still carrying it. So if I can write it down, it can stop chasing me. All right. So if you don't know what you're up against, you can never tackle it. Really good analogy is like with calorie counting and weight loss. Tracking is going to be the first step. Understanding your habits, how much you're eating, when do you break down and give in? These are all good metrics for understanding your current habits so you can work towards new ones. The first step to becoming the productive person that you would like to be is to list out absolutely everything that is taking mental brain space. So getting everything out on paper. But after you have it all out, oftentimes you're like, great, now I have a really big long list. Thank you, right? There are a couple of things that can help you prioritize if you are neurodivergent or maybe you're just really overwhelmed, right? On your paper, you'll see that there is a brain dump section and there's an Eisenhower Matrix section. After I go through it, we're actually going to practice it a little bit together. But don't worry, there are prizes for competing, shall we say. So whenever I first expressed to my therapist a few years back my inability to prioritize tasks, Similar to how that book explained it, time happens all at once, and tasks seemingly happen all at once with the same priority, right? It was very difficult to give a weight to one thing versus another. So when I mentioned this, she brought up the Eisenhower Matrix and actually handed me a printout similar to the one you have. And I've heard of it before in my psych degree, but I'd never really given it a chance. So I took my printout home, and you want to guess what I did with it? I stuck it on the paper pile on my desk and 100% forgot about it. Yeah, I know. There is a paper pile still to this day on the desk. But when I got desperate enough, I reached for it. I gave it a shot, and it actually helped. So the Eisenhower Matrix is a time management tool that helps us prioritize tasks by categorizing them based on urgency and importance, allowing users to decide which tasks to do now, which to schedule, delegate, or eliminate, depending where it should fall within the 4 quadrants, which costs. I think we have, I was going to say I have a little bit more. So, for example, if something is very urgent, and it's also very important, it's going to be the do it now, do it today. And then you also have schedule, delegate, and delete. And we will talk about delegate because at one point I was looking at this square, delegate as in give to someone else. And I was like, if I could delegate tasks, I would not be staring at an Eisenhower matrix. Like I don't have an assistant, right? I don't have someone who can take over for me. But this gives you 4 categories that you can kind of go through and quickly prioritize. I would love to be a minimalist. And there is an amazing woman who has helped thousands of people declutter, organize, and cull their belongings for their home and their work life. Has anyone heard of KonMari? Anyone? Hey, yeah. I seriously, binged the show, read her books, absolutely obsessed, you could say. I want to read a snippet from her website. Tidying is a powerful tool, but it's not the destination. The true goal of tidying is to clear away clutter so you can live the life you want. When you put your house in order, using the KonMari method, you have no choice but to listen to your inner voice, because the question of what you want to own is actually the question of how you want to live your life. When you reassess your belongings and organize your home, you set the stage for a huge transformation. So her tidying process isn't just decluttering or making things look neat on the spur of the moment. It's about tidying up in a way that will spark joy and change your life forever. If you feel stuck with a schedule full of meetings that you don't want to have, talking to people that you really don't want to talk to, you have a to-do list a mile long with items that fill you with dread, or an inbox just to the brim with unopened emails, or maybe you're just attending a session on being more productive. It's time to start asking the hard questions about what brings you joy, not just physical things, but mental and spiritual as well. What brings you true joy on the day-to-day? And this is going to help you with the last box, the delete. Because to this day, putting something in the delete box for me is just, it's like up near impossible, right? I lost my cousin this year. He was 1.5 years older than me, and he was like a brother growing up. It's one of the hardest losses I've had to endure, but with it came this mental clarity and the ability to let go of things that didn't matter. I've never before been able to do this, where I would be like, that is a really cool opportunity, but absolutely not, right? I just cannot. And I wish I could give you this mental clarity without the heart-wrenching grief on top of it. Marie Kondo actually has a book where she takes her home tidying to the career level. So I recommend checking that out if you're struggling like I do with the delete portion. But before our quick thing, I will say establishing clear boundaries around your time and availability can help the overcommitment and stress, right? Saying no on the front end versus being in the middle of being like, well, it's a month late, and having that feeling. Thinking back to when I did have a personal project manager, actually, I was creating videos at Code School, and she'd be like, how long will it take you to create this content? How long before we can get to filming? And if I told her, this part will take me all week, she would never bargain with me or tell me that's not fast enough, or try to squeeze 12 other things into the work cycle just because she felt pressured to. She would push back on other people and say, no, this is how long content creation takes. So why is it that we can't do that for ourselves? We need to be our own protectors as well as our own organizers, starting with boundaries for our time and availability. All right, I said 2 minutes priorities. Last time I did 2 minutes. I've only done this talk once before, but 2 minutes felt too long. So I'm gonna do 60 seconds unless I hear booing. Nobody's booing, okay. So you'll get out your marker. There's a marker on one point and then like a felt-tipped type-ish pen. They're both permanent, so do beware. And we're gonna list out tasks in the brain dump portion of our paper. These are tasks for you. Anything you have going on in your life at all that you have to do. Literally, it could be emails, could be mowing the lawn, it could be getting the groceries whenever you get back home, or unpacking your bags, or maybe that work meeting that's really stressing you out that you have to prep for. Literally anything at all. Person with the longest brain dump list is going to get a gift card, Amazon gift card. Hey. Yes, there are actually, anyone? Markers, paper? Okay. I'm gonna grab my phone so we can start a timer. And so you're not, if you're, like me and you can do two things at once, so you're not utterly bored, I'm gonna do it along with you. Mirror the display. Yes, mirror it. Excellent. Okay, I'm just gonna make the notes smaller. All right. Excellent. Ready? Ready? You all don't look ready. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Start a 60-second timer. All right, I do actually have to unpack. And I have 3 videos due that are late to create. And my email is at 169 unread. And you have 42 seconds left. What else do I have to do? Okay, I have to do client interviews. And these are really small. I do need to mow when I get back home. And I have to prep the sites word list for my little one. We are at 20 seconds. Keep going. Longest list wins a gift card. I do have 2 Angular demos to create. And 3, 2, 1. All right, that is your time. Thank you for participating in today's challenge. We're gonna find out who's the winner. Pens down, please. I only came up with 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you are in the same boat, don't feel bad. But I did it while talking on stage, so don't judge too harshly. Let's go back to the non-mirroring option. Maybe. Excellent. Okay. Who got more than me? Who got 7? Oh my goodness, I'm so not alone. I think 3 of you got 7. 8, anybody? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Hey, will you come by after and give me your email? Congratulations. You've won the longest list of to-do items? I don't know if that's a congratulations, but woof, okay. So I'm gonna wrap up this section again by reiterating the value of saying no. It is worth it to protect your time by declining requests that don't align with your priorities. Because saying yes to everything and burning yourself out will never lead to a healthy, fulfilled life. It just won't. And I know there are seasons when you have to grit your teeth and do the job. I get that. But it's not sustainable and it shouldn't be life. So hopefully we now have a bit of motivation, or at least understand as to why we need to spend time prioritizing tasks. And we've put that theory into action, passing on. But if you're not a paper person, there is a company, many companies, many apps out there. This is one that I've used before by Wavesoft. But honestly, I do have this on my computer, but I forget that I have it on my computer. So I end up with pen and paper at the end of the day, is how I do my Eisenhower Matrices. I'm gonna go through a couple of other techniques because not everyone is the same. Not everything, different seasons of my own life these tools don't work, right? So I want to kind of share a breadth of knowledge so that when you're in the panic, you can have something to reach for. Eat the frog technique. Has anyone heard of eat the frog? It's a very disturbing term, so I understand if you're like, what is she? Eat the frog involves doing your hardest task first thing in the morning to reduce procrastination, boost productivity, improve focus. However, it can be really freaking stressful. I mean, for me, like waking up in the morning and grabbing my espresso and staring at the hardest thing that I have to do, which is honestly like a 2-week project, and just staring at it and be like, yeah, go ahead and do that, Alyssa. Like, it has never worked for me. But I wanted to share something on the opposite end because I know we're all different. For me, I like to do smaller things in the morning that kind of like give me this sense of momentum, and then I can tackle the harder thing in the afternoon. But that's also when my brain works the best is the afternoon. But the most important part of the process is the experimentation and discovery for your own brain, right? When does your brain work the best? Try Eat the Frog one day, try the Eisenhower Matrix the next, right? Just until something clicks and feels right and works into your own flow. A final one that I guess I was doing naturally my whole life, and then I realized it was a labeled technique. ABCDE, really great, catchy name. It basically is, you start with the brain dump that we just did, which is how I always start, pen and paper, brain dump. But then you label things with A, must do, B, should do. It's very similar to the Matrix, right? C, nice to do, D, delegate, right? Hand off a task to another, or E, eliminate. What I love about this list, or this ABCDE style, is that you don't actually have to assign anything to delete, right? Because in my brain, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get to that, right? It's not an A task, but I'm gonna get to it. And that's been really the only effective way over time that I've ever deleted tasks, was just if it stayed on the paper long enough and didn't get done, right? It was not obviously important enough or urgent enough. But a healthier person would be able to say no, just saying, putting that out there. All right. So after going through many of these tools, which you might find any one of them more effective for yourself than I did, I always end up back with the notepad, as I mentioned, and the long list, the brain dump. It's just how my brain experiences the world all at once. And so with everything equal priority. So just getting it out on paper and out of my brain, it helps me to start prioritizing and highlighting and moving on. But it does not have to be fancy, right? Knowing what to do is not the same as being able to do it. All brains freeze sometimes, but ADHD brains freeze more often and harder. And it's not a willpower problem, it's a neurological bottleneck. Transitions especially can feel like trying to find the go button with an oven mitt on. If you've ever stared at a task that you wanted to do, truly you wanted to do it, but you just couldn't start, then you've experienced this, you felt it. So, are we there yet? Yes, that's glorious chicken. I thought about putting something more appropriate, but I like this chicken a lot, so. We talked about a lot of mental models, brain dumps, matrices, prioritization techniques, and they've helped me survive the overwhelm, but surviving is different than moving. And so I want to share, I guess, my top 10 productivity theories, top 10 things that have worked for me. These are real life things. Some are tiny, some are weird, some are fun, but I promise you, these are the things that have been most impactful in productivity in my life. The very first one I like to call reset the room, trademark. If I can't work at my desk, I move to the dining room. If that fails, I try the car. Yeah, I actually have like a little desk, and it has a slot, and it sits over my steering wheel, so my laptop can sit there. I know people have asked me before, do you use that while driving? I do not use it while driving. But I find the car is very noise controlled, and it's a different location. 9 times out of 10, one change of location is all it takes to get me unstuck on a task. And it turns out there is science behind this. ADHD brains often struggle with context-dependent executive function. Changing your environment is a contextual shift, which helps break the mental inertia we feel when a space becomes associated with a freeze. Have you ever heard you shouldn't watch TV in bed or you shouldn't work in bed? No? Never? I got some nods. Yeah. This is because your brain is cue dependent. So if you always watch these really high action movies in bed and you're like awake and you're like, yeah, this is awesome, then your brain starts to associate that space with being awake, right? Being excited. Psychologists call this cue-dependent task activation. Your brain reads the environment and tries to pass it to past action. Have you been stuck at your desk all day? Your brain expects you to continue to be stuck. And when you move even just one room away, you create a new sensory cue. ADHD brains love novelty, that hit of dopamine from a new seat, a new view, a new air pattern. It's often enough to help me get started, help me move. It's not just about novelty, though. It's about engineering your environment to serve your brain. When I worked at code school, it was in an office. It was before my remote days. And I found more focus sitting behind a mop bucket in a supply closet than my actual desk, which is a true story. Why? Because I couldn't be interrupted. I wasn't in anyone's line of sight, and I could breathe and talk out loud to myself and type. Eventually, I made myself a little nest under my standing desk with sticky notes and headphones, and it was weird, but you know what? It worked. And I didn't care because the deadlines were crushing me, and I had to get it done. Now that I work from home, I still rotate between spaces, a shared office, a private studio, a couch, a kitchen table, because some days my desk just isn't it. Often, my desk isn't it. If you are underperforming and you are running out of energy to care what people think, you will try anything. And some of those weird setups are still the best work I have ever done. So whether you have ADHD or not, know what you need, set it up, and don't apologize for it. The Pomodoro technique. Has anyone heard of Pomodoro? Hey, it's like half the room. I love and both hate Pomodoro. So let's dive into it. It's a time management method where you work in 25-minute focus blocks. I think I have there we go. That's helpful to have up. 25-minute blocks called Pomodoros with a 5-minute break after each. And after 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break. It's named after the tomato-shaped kitchen timer its creator, Francesco Cirillo, used. Simple, tomato-shaped, surprisingly effective. Each Pomodoro is short, focused sprint, which is helpful for ADHD brains in a panic, especially when you're looking at a daunting to-do list like our friend there, and you're like, let's do this today, right? Let's tackle that. So Pomodoro is a way to just get started. 25 minutes. What can I do in 25 minutes, right? The breaks protect your stamina, and the rhythm gives your brain something predictable to lean on. It's like a container for your attention. So the actual Pomodoro, the trick that was the most effective for me wasn't just Pomodoro in the Times, but it was labeling. So that same company, Wavesoft, has a Pomodoro timer on my Mac. I'm sorry if you're PC, I don't know if they have one there, probably. But the most amazing feature was just this little input field to label your 25-minute segment. So valuable, right? I've got Slack messages coming in, or I've got tickets being assigned to me, and literally what my brain would do is just be like, cool, let's go work on that ticket, right? And I'm like, over here in the middle of a demo, right? What are we doing? So having the label for your Pomodoro session, even if it's just a sticky note on your desk, it's like, you're working on this, right? We're gonna get this done, or we're going to make progress on this. It's been so valuable. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you use a tomato timer from the 90s or a slick new app. What matters is that it helps you finish the task and allows you to come back tomorrow and do it all over again. And that's what real focus looks like. Not perfection, repeatability, right? Number 3, bribery. It's my favorite method. It's apparently science-backed, but also one I've been doing my entire life. While I was writing this talk, I told myself I couldn't have the chocolate I was craving until I had 7,000 words on the page. And it worked. I really wanted that chocolate. It works. These little rewards have helped motivate me just to get started on a task that I really didn't want to do. All right, some examples. You can watch TikTok, but only after you load the dishwasher. You can go for that walk that you're itching to do, but you have to listen to the work audiobook while you do it. It sounds silly, but our brains are more supple to this kind of bribery than we think, even if it's our own incentives that you're giving it. Another really powerful tool for my own personal productivity has been time boxing. Time boxing is a simple but powerful time management technique where you set a fixed amount of time to a task, work during that window, similar to Pomodoro, and then when your time is up, this part's really hard, you move on to something else, anything else, another task. Maybe you give yours 30 minutes for emails, right? And this one is hard for me because I have over 200 in my inbox, and they're not like little ones. They're like big boy task emails, right? Setting a 30-minute timer and being like, I'm going to do 30 minutes of emails, and then after that, I'm walking away from the inbox can be really, really powerful. Honestly, if you're on a roll, though, and you have the time, that's the point of these things, right? To get you the motivation, to get you the movement that you need for these tasks. But time boxing has helped me to stop spiraling. But similar to the Pomodoro and labeling it, something that's helped me significantly was real-life timers, right? So if I'm working from home and the laundry's going, I might say something like, I'm going to get through as many emails as I can before the dryer chimes and does its chiming noise. Or I'm waiting for a project to build. I challenge myself, by the time this build finishes and I can move on, I need to have that Slack message to so-and-so drafted. These ambient cues help me stay on track so often. Otherwise, I could spend hours on a task that just isn't important. And I realize, well, dang, I spent way too long on something that's not valuable to enough people. Or I could get frozen by a task that is important, but it's just so big that it's daunting. So this is one of those time boxing with real-life timers. It's been very valuable through my life. This one might be especially helpful for those with ADHD, but maybe also if you're living with someone who has it. My 6-year-old is potty trained. Finally, that was a long journey. But he still forgets to flush the toilet. And repeatedly, I've had these verbal reminders where I'm like, hey, bud, you're gonna have to flush the toilet. Hey, bud, you gotta go flush the toilet. And then I had this moment where I was like, this isn't willpower-based. He has ADHD just like you. This is neurological, right? So I tried something different. I strung painter's tape across the bathroom doorway. And every time he remembered to flush, he got to add a new piece of tape to this, like a little banner. And, within like the first day, I don't think he goes to the bathroom this much, but there were 10 pieces on the paper. But I didn't have to flush the toilet again, right? And this was something because whenever I have something like, I don't know if you ever like lay in bed and you like sit straight up at night, it's midnight and you're supposed to be sleeping, but you're not sleeping, and you're like, I haven't done this, I haven't got back to Sally, I didn't do that video, I said it, like whatever the thing is, I'll switch my wedding ring, because I sleep in it, to the other hand, and that like lets me go back to sleep, because I know it's gonna drive me crazy when I wake up. Why is that there? Oh, right. Sally, gotta get back to her, right? So these physical, real-life reminders have been so powerful to help me get motivated, to help me on track. So we are here. Yes. Willpower and desire are the hard edges, the tight grip, the white-knuckled effort, and they often aren't enough. Early in my life, I thought they would be. But what lasts longer are the soft reminders, the kind edges, the gentle games that we play with ourselves. Not because they're childish, but because they work, because they're the ones that stick, the ones that actually reshape our pathways in our brain, not through pressure, but through practice. And slowly they change not just what we do, but how we see ourselves while we're doing it. A little note, a little tidbit in the middle of these silly things. So, not every task needs a 25-minute tomato timer. Most days I don't do Pomodoro. I do looser time boxing, bigger blocks, flexible containers. But I have those tools in my back pocket for the seasons of life when I just cannot do without. One tool that has stuck with me, though, doesn't matter what season of life, is Day of Death. So yes, one day to rule all meetings. My boss laughed when she first found out about Day of Death. It used to be on Mondays. Now my Day of Death is Wednesdays. But essentially, it's the day that I try to move every single meeting in my life to. Just like all on one. I mean, you can imagine. These puppies are back to back. But you know what it does with the days that aren't Wednesday? Especially for developers. I know there's technologists of all sorts here at this conference, but especially for developers, where you have to get into this like voodoo Zen state in order to solve problems most of the time, and you have to have runway on both the front half of the problem solving and the back half of the problem solving. Do not believe the times that my husband and I have driven in silence to go pick up our son, and it was okay. It was just both of us kind of like shutting down for the day, right? Like logging off, because it takes that long to stop working on that problem. So the Day of Death has been really valuable for me, but I do also have kind of the inverse, where I will use meetings, like I'll have one meeting on Friday, and it's in the middle of the day. So that's a time box, a real life time box, where before my one-on-one on Friday, I try to get this done. After my one-on-one on Friday, I have a longer chunk of time to get that done, right? Like, so you can use your schedule in order to motivate yourself and give you time boxes. Now, has anyone here worked in fast food or fast food service, maybe not fast food? No one? Wow, I am so low on that. I was a server at Red Lobster, Starbucks, a local coffee shop, even a crepe stand in Colorado, all just working my way through college. And I had two big takeaways from those years. One, get out before you become a lifer. Two, yeah, sad but true. This game that we played to keep our sanity. Has anyone ever played something like this before? Where you're like on a road trip and you're like, stop checking the clock, right? Or you're doing a really hard task and you're just like, oh, the time is eking by. During slow shifts, after every surface had been cleaned, not once but twice, you had two choices. You could go insane or you could play the game. And you just challenge yourself. How long can you go? How long has it been since I last checked the clock? I got really good at it. I forget there even was a clock. But it doesn't work with only time, right? You can do different metrics. During this talk, when I was writing it, I challenged myself, how long can I go without checking the word count? And spoiler, it's way more motivating to look up and realize you've written 3,000 words than to see it tick by, 20 more words, right? So it's just one of those games that has truly helped me with productivity. Things like don't look at the clock, Day of Death, and personal briberies, they sound silly and they sound small, but these are the things that have kept me moving. They're the mechanisms that help me succeed despite all of the disadvantages that I have fought through in my life. So the next time you're stuck, try making it a challenge or playing a little game with yourself. I promise you, you will be surprised by what your brain can unlock. People always say, don't forget to take breaks, but with ADHD, it can often be all or nothing. So 1 second I could be working, and the next I'm staring at the ceiling thinking about lemon muffins, right? Like the real tip for me hasn't been take more breaks. It's use your breaks to your brain's best advantage. Last week I realized I was eating lunch too late, and afterwards I was sluggish, excuse me. I was sleepy, and I was just not getting a lot done. So I shifted my schedule to eat lunch earlier, even though I was not hungry yet. I ate earlier, which meant I didn't have the energy crash in the afternoon after a bigger meal. And I all of a sudden had my afternoons back, right? Sometimes it's not about forcing productivity. It's about noticing what's working against you and your brain and your workflow and gently realigning, keyword gently. I know this talk is about productivity, so the next part might seem a little off, but hear me out. Self-care and productivity go hand in hand. Throughout my life, I can trace every wave of high productivity back to one thing. My mental and physical needs were being met, right? And when they weren't, the system broke down, the motivation collapsed, the wheels came off. I have started cycling again and walking. I try to do these before work because it helps lift the brain fog of the day for me if I start it off. But I know some people that use that as their shutdown routine in order for them to unplug for the night. It's not as much about being fit as it is about starting clear. And things like journaling, the mental declutter. It's not always long or poetic. Sometimes it's just the messy brain dump like we did today, but it clears space and it lets me focus. I even made a little chant for you guys, and it's super nerdy, but it's memorable, so I don't care. All right. Work out, eat right, sleep well, drink water. Work out, eat right, sleep well, drink water. I know, it's cheesy, but they are not nice to haves. This is the scaffolding, right? These quiet routines that are going to make possibility possible for you in the long run. It adds up. Small stuff adds up. I mean, moving my lunch up 90 minutes gave me my whole afternoon back, right? And I'd been struggling for weeks, like, what is wrong with me in the afternoon? Over the years, I've learned that these small things, all combined, are the system. Things like mindfulness, routines where it's like a startup routine and a shutdown routine, prayer or journaling, calming hobbies, bird watching totally counts. Sleep can make or break your day. This is one. Sleep is huge. Like if you are struggling on the struggle bus for normal sleep in your life, I feel like you have to press pause on the how can I be more productive, and just solely focus that, because if that cornerstone is not there, I don't think any tip or trick is going to help get your brain to a productive space. I love how Delivered from Distraction puts it though. Know thyself, know your foibles and your gifts, and build your world around them, not against them. And this is true whether you have ADHD or not. Because over time, the ways that we support ourselves, they can fade, just like a relationship, something that you're not checking in with. Also, your self-knowledge will drift, as does the structure that once worked for the former you. Growing up, when I was in a funk, my dad would always ask, "Have you been journaling lately?" And it was really annoying how he always knew. When I was off my schedule, I was off my routine. It's funny how the people around us can see what we need, even when we stop seeing it for ourselves. Number 9, AI. I had a coworker say, "Can you believe we've gotten 45 minutes through a meeting and no one said AI?" And I was like, "You just freaking broke this. You broke it." Like, I was like, come on, man. Before we want to close, though, I would like to give a quick shout out to my not-so-secret productivity weapon, ChatGPT. As someone with ADHD, I often struggle with the flood. Too many ideas, too many priorities, too many tabs open in my mind. And Chat, honestly, has become a co-pilot for my brain, not just my code. When I don't know where to start, it helps me create a brain dump list. I've taught it how to ask me for different questions so that it can tell me what's highest priority, right? I've worked together with it for a very long time. Someone actually came up to me after I was in Kansas City, and they were asking me, what have you actually used AI for? A good example is I do Angular Air, the podcast, and before AI, I would have, I'd probably spend a week setting up a season where I would look for guests, look online, and I would find people, send out invites, get them scheduled, and then I would have a season for the show to weekly have a show. I asked AI, though, a couple months back, I was like, "Hey, I'm out of guests. I need a queue again. Can you please look on Twitter, X, LinkedIn," and I think I gave it one more, to find anyone who has mentioned the word Angular. Most of the time it's the framework, so I didn't tell it not to count other things. But anyone who's mentioned the Angular, send me the link to their post, give me their name, and give me a summary of the post for the last 3 months. And I said it'd take as long as you need. I think it took about 45 minutes to think. Gave me back a list of 50. I said, "This is awesome. Thank you so much. Can you please make a personalized invitation to my podcast? Here's what it's about," to each of these people, right? It then took, that one was much quicker. And then I just read through, clicked on the link, made sure they were a real person, made sure they were actually talking about Angular, and sent the invite, and had an entire season of my show scheduled in an afternoon that would, honest to God, take me a week, right? So there's a lot of cheesy things talking about AI. A lot of people who are like, "Oh, is it really doing a lot for us? Is it really helping?" But I have found a huge, huge productivity boost when you use it properly. So far, I've shared stories and strategies, tools I've used to fight the overwhelm, prioritize tasks, and to stay on track. But at some point in this journey, I realized a lot of us aren't struggling because we don't know how to be productive. We're struggling because we're burnt out or we're discouraged. We're trying to fix the symptoms instead of the underneath problem. So I'd like to zoom out a little bit and look at the psychology behind productivity and what makes a life truly fulfilling, not just efficient. There's a belief that if we just push harder, organize better, optimize more, we'll finally hit that sweet spot, right? That formula for my life. But studies show that it's actually backwards. Joy doesn't come after productivity, it comes before productivity. It creates productivity. And if we want to build a sustainable, meaningful work life, one that doesn't burn us out, we have to stop chasing fulfillment through effort alone. Positive emotions broaden your thinking, scientifically proven. They build resilience, they boost motivation. There are 2 studies, psychology studies, I love that illustrate this beautifully. In one of the studies, participants were asked to solve a problem involving a candle, matches, and a box of thumbtacks. The ones who were put in a positive mood beforehand were far more likely to solve it creatively. And this aligns with Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory. When we experience joy or gratitude, our brains literally widen their field of thought. We become more curious, more flexible, more capable. In other words, happy brains solve problems faster. Martin Seligman, often called the father of positive psychology, wanted a simple answer to the question, what makes life worth living? His PERMA model identifies 5 core ingredients for a long-term well-being in your life. Positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. The more that we experience these 5 things, not just at work, but across our life, the more fulfilled and capable we become. And that fulfillment is the real fuel behind productivity. I'm going to read you this. Prepare yourselves. It gets me every time. It was spring, but it was summer I wanted. The warm days and the great outdoors. It was summer, but it was fall I wanted. The colorful leaves and the cool, dry air. It was fall, but it was winter I wanted. The beautiful snow and the joy of the holiday season. It was winter, but it was spring I wanted. The warmth and the blossoming of nature. I was a child, but it was adulthood I wanted. The freedom and the respect. I was 20, but it was 30 I wanted. To be mature and sophisticated. I was middle-aged, but it was 20 I wanted. The youth and the free spirit. I was retired, but it was middle age I wanted. The presence of mind without limitations. My life was over, but I never got what I wanted. It's funny. We were actually talking about this in a speaker group at a picnic table today. I was smiling because I was like, how relevant is this? We've talked a lot today about managing time, staying focused, setting boundaries, but none of it really matters if we never learn to be here in this moment, in the season of life you're in. That poem hits me every time I read it because I've lived it. It's all too real. Maybe you have too. We keep chasing the next season or the next version of ourselves, that perfect flow state, the clean to-do list, the ideal career, and sometimes we miss our actual life. The dictionary says contentment is a state of satisfaction, but I think it's so much deeper than that. It's not about lowering the bar, it's about realizing your worth and your joy aren't waiting on the next version of yourself. For me, Christ has helped shape that perspective, but whether it's through faith or family, psychology or science, finding peace in the present moment is the most impactful productivity booster you can do. I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. This moment in this season matters, and I'm just so grateful that all of you are here. And whether you try one of these strategies today, or all of them, or none of them at all, I hope you leave knowing you don't have to hustle your way into joy. You can find it here, and you can build it gently. I have 3 things. The QR code on some of your papers, if you were lucky, is going to lead you to a resource page. 1, I'm doing developer interviews. My company was like, we don't have personas. And I'm like, we don't have personas? And they're like, all of them got destroyed. I'm like, how did you lose all of our developer personas? Needless to say, next week I'll be doing Angular developer interviews, finding out if you're into Angular or if you've ever used our tools. There is a prize incentive, dollar incentive there that I will send you. We also have a Discord channel, and then my slides are available. But I just thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.